This is the original pin punisher. I've been bowling all my life. Professional bowling is my passion, and now I'm here to share it with you.
Welcome back to the How to Bowl on a Sport Shot. So today we have Cheetah, one of the harder ones for those who cannot play the gutter. So you guys got to keep in mind that this pattern is really flat, and that's why you cannot play in the middle part of the lane. You need to be closer to the first arrow, or if it's really dry, sometimes around the second arrow. And then whenever the pattern breaks down, you get to the third arrow, but you got to keep your break point around anywhere from about one board all the way to like 5, 6, 7. And then as the pattern breaks down, you really got to angle it there. So the overall structure of this is super flat, really no giveaway in the middle part of the lane. On the edge of the lane is where you're going to see the difference in concentration of oil. The very edge of the lane, like 1, 2, 3, is going to have very little amount of oil, but the further you move left, the more oil you have until you get to a certain point. And then it just starts to flatten out, and then at that point, everything hooks. Now the crazy thing is pattern's only so long, so you end up having to fight the issue, your ball just coming off the back of the pattern and then hooking way too early, because you have over half the lane, or a little less than half the lane of your ball hooking. So we'll get into how to do this. As far as lane play goes, to get a quick start on this pattern, you want to be anywhere from, well, you want to be burning it like 1 through 5. Make sure to dry that up real good, and then you can hop on top of it, or you can start to move left just a little bit. You don't want to. You probably shouldn't be past 10 at the arrows to start your block on this kind of pattern, just because it's so flat in the middle of the lane. So basic lane play on this, it seems kind of easy, but you're going to just end up going pretty straight. You want to keep your launch angles probably towards about the 10 pin, and you want your ball going through the arrows anywhere from like 1 to 8, depending on the lane surface. If it's super old and it's beat up, you'll probably end up hooking it a little bit more. But if you are on something newer, you're going to end up probably being able to play pretty close to the gutter. So small recap. You want to be close to the gutter on this pattern, and you don't really want to start left of the second arrow. Now as the pattern breaks down, that's when you can start to migrate left a little bit, and you can really curve the ball on this pattern, but you still want to keep your break point right at 5, or at least right at 10, or else you'll see your ball hook or jackknife on the back of this pattern. You may miss a head pin to the left. So if you don't do anything else, play straight on this pattern. So the types of cores and covers that seem to work the best for me on this were symmetrical cores with numbers of 245 to about 252, and they had differentials of 035 and the 030 and like into the 020s. And then whenever I switched, those were the urethane balls. But as far as the bigger cores, when I moved to the bigger cores when I got reactive resin cover stocks in my hand, so like 247, 040, 045, those will allow your ball reaction to stay smooth and round when it comes off the back of the pattern whenever you get away from urethane. That, and you need something to face up in the front part of the lane to get itself hooking a little more before it hits the carry down that you've put there from urethane. So yeah, there are pros to cons in throwing urethane and resin on top of each other, but when you get it down, it'll work pretty good. So urethane is mainly, you should use it if you are having a hard time controlling the down lane reaction, so you get your ball to hook and then stop. But if you seem like you're fine with that, and it's more beneficial to use a reactive resin ball because you're going to have a lot more hitting power, and you're not going to have to deal with the carry down transition. It's just going to get drier, and you're going to be able to move left. So that's the cores and the covers I used. So drillings and surfaces. On all of my urethane balls, my surfaces are extremely low. I would say no lower than 360, and probably the shiniest one I'm going to ever have is 1000 grit, and that's if it's probably the Blackwood of urethane, because that one hooks a lot. So outside of, well, I did forget to mention one thing in the cores and surfaces section. The only asymmetrical core I did have was in the Blackwood of urethane, but everything else was symmetrical stuff. So getting back to the surfaces and the drillings. On my stronger urethane balls, I went to a little bit further pin distance, so about a 4 to a 4 1/4, with probably around 0.20 to 0.30 valve angles. So the ball will scoot through the fronts a little bit, but it still faces up in the front part of the lane. So getting back to the weaker urethane balls, the ones that need help flaring in like the 0.20 differential range, those ones are anywhere from about 3.5 to about 3 3/4 in my positive axis point range. That will keep your ball flaring at the maximum amount possible, even though on the really smaller cores and the lower differentials, you'll get about 1-2 inches of flare out of it. But when you're trying to play the gutter and they're hooking a lot, that's really all you need. So but the urethane balls are drilled some pretty low valve angles. The lowest I'd say was about 15 valve angle, and the highest is probably about a 25. I do that so they hook, stop, and they are right out of the hook phase and into the roll phase. That way I can control my break point as best as possible. So if you're not really big on urethane, you can also drill a reactive resin ball with like a 2-inch pin, a 1-inch pin, and you'll get the same kind of look out of it. So that's one thing to keep in mind if urethane is, a crutch in your eyes. But I think it's a great tool, and if you don't need it, that's great. If you need it, like me, whatever, So surfaces. On the reactive resin balls, you probably don't need to go duller than 1000 grit, and that's if you're going to start out with it. Like if you've already bowled a lot of games on this and it's already breaking down, you're probably going to want to have around about 2000 or like 3000-ish. Still a little bit of surface, but not to the point where it's glossed up. You want a little bit of cloudy look on the ball. So those are the types of drillings and covers that I used. Hopefully this helps you guys too. thanks for watching this week's video. I hope that it was beneficial, and this is how you bowl on cheetah. If you guys want another pattern, something specific, maybe that's not PBA patterns, although I'm going to try to get all the PBA patterns. So if you're patient, I'll get it. Like I said, any pattern recommendations for this series, let me know. I'll do one. You guys want to see some ball reaction videos, let me know. If there's any kind of tips and tricks that you want to learn how to do, like with bowling, like, you know, how to bring up my ball speed, how to change my ball roll, you know, how to make a certain spare, let me know in the comments and I'll work on it for you. Thanks for watching.